So, you want to try your luck at all the awesome rewards TOA has to offer. Well, you've come to the right place. I'll be going over everything you need to know about TOA. The stats, the gear, the invos, the mechanics, and some tips to help you solo your first TOA and hopefully get those juicy purples. This is the Xeros TOA version, which is almost exactly like Osrs, but it allows you to use helpful pets that will give you DPS boosts and heal you as you're raiding. Also, the mechanics are tweaked for smoother gameplay. So, let's jump right into the guide. In terms of stats, I recommend that you have at least 90 stats in strength, range, mage, and of course, attack based on what weapons you'll be using. You can obviously do it with lower stats, but it will affect the speed and efficiency of your runs. In terms of gear, you want to use the best gear you have available to you. Accuracy is very important in TOA. So instead of going for a more balanced setup, you want to go for your best in slot in all three combat styles, as it will have a big effect on the overall quality of your raid. As you can see, I'll be using my max setup for this run. I prefer to use full TOA with Morrigan armor and full ancestral. I bring a T-bow as my primary ranged weapon and a Stang staff as my primary mage weapon. I also have my Fang as my primary melee weapon. If that isn't available to you, best in slot would be
the Fang, then
a holy rapier, regular rapier, VLS, and then whip. Best in slot range is a T-bow or a ZCB with ruby bolts, a BOFA C, a regular BOFA, ACB, and a DCB or MSB. Best in slot mage is a Tumican Shadow, Holy Sang, regular Sang, and a Trident. In terms of armor, Torva is best, Bandos, and then Barrows. For range,
full Missouri,
Murrigans or Corrupted, Armadillo, and then Carols. For mage, Ancestral, and then Arams. Void is really good too, but if you're still learning, I recommend that you take something else because Void has low defense and you'll take a lot of damage. So you'll be using a lot more food.
Bring a Bandos Godsword as it's much better than a Dragon Warhammer in TOA. You can choose to bring less switches if you're not comfortable with so many, and bring more brews at lower invocation levels. But as you progress, you should start to bring more switches as it will improve your DPS significantly. Make sure to bring a blowpipe because it's very useful in the raid. Lightbearer is the best in slot ring, but if you do not have it, then you can bring a brimstone ring or any other stat boosting ring. For boots, I've chosen to go with brimstone boots because of the boosts that it gives to range and mage, but if you don't have it, just bring prims. In terms of supplies, you should bring at least 4 to 5 brews, 2 to 3 restores. A divine super combat potion is also very useful.
For pets, I recommend you go for a DPS pet if a Kratos is not available to you, preferably the range one, because that will help you with the final boss. Quick reminder, if it's your first run, bring a dragon pickaxe or a rune pickaxe into the raid with you. You can then deposit it into the room, but you need to have it with you on your first run. Invos. For the sake of simplicity, we'll be renaming the bosses to make them easier to remember. So Zebak will be Crocky, because he's a crocodile. Khephri will be Dungy, because it's a big dung beetle. Akkha will be Swordy, because he carries a big sword. Baba will be Monkey, and Warden will be Wardy. So the first 4 invos are for how many times you can die throughout the raid. For this raid that we'll be doing together, we'll set it to softcore, meaning that you get 3 tries. The next 4 are for time, and don't worry if you don't make it, your invo level will just decrease and you won't get kicked. We'll be setting this to walk. The next 3 are for the amount of supplies that you get in the raid, because after every 2 rooms, you'll be able to restock on supplies. We'll talk about that more later. Now, there are 4 invos for pass, which means the bosses have more HP and they also hit harder. So be careful when turning these on. The next 3 invos are for prayer, food, and brews, and specs. Finally, there are 4 to 6 invos for each boss. Make sure to read what the invos do and pick the ones that you're most comfortable with, but for now, just copy the ones that I have on. So as you can see, this is a level 170 Invo normal raid, which gives you a chance at all the great rewards. Okay, raid time. Make sure to be using the RuneLite client because it will make the raid a lot easier. Also, you can use overloads. You can't take them in with you, so you can take a sip, deposit it back into your bank, and then continue on. And after every room, remember to switch back into TOA if you're using it, because that will give you an HP boost as you're going into the next room. And in terms of order, I like to do Crocky, Dungy, Swordy, Monkey, because Crocky is an annoying room, and having that extra overload boost at start really helps you get rid of it quickly. Okay, Crocky. For Crocky, you just pick up the jugs and fill it with water and then dump it on the tree. You can choose to freeze the little crocs. I prefer to ignore them and just grow the tree. The trick to the spike puzzle is you want to run right behind the green circles, not on the same lane, and that should prevent you from taking any damage. With practice, this puzzle will take you maybe 40 seconds. For Crocky, it's pretty simple. Just hit it and avoid the poison and the water waves. You can start off by BGS specking, but only do one spec because the damage reduction is capped. If you have a ZCB, you can wait for your spec to regenerate and let the ruby bolts do their magic. If you see a big blue rock coming towards you, pray range. If you see a red ball, pray mage. Only switch prayers after you see the hit splat appear on your character, because at higher invos, it speeds up. When the special attack happens, you want to clear the 3 tiles behind any of the rocks as fast as possible and then stand behind it. If you right click the boulders, you can see that you can push, pull, or hit the boulders, and with practice you'll be able to solve it faster. Crocky down, let's move on. For Dungy's puzzle room, you need to complete 1 puzzle on each side. For this puzzle, you just have to memorize the order in which they light up. Obviously, if you have RuneLite on, it makes it a whole lot easier. You don't have to memorize anything. Now, just as an example, because this is a guide, I'll be explaining each of the puzzles to you. I got extremely lucky here and guessed which order it is, but if you aren't lucky like me, you'll have to do it through trial and error, which of the columns to hit. Now for this one, if you click the stone, you'll find that a number appears and you have to add up the numbers because each of these images has a number value to it. You could find an image of it on Google to know what the paths are, but obviously with RuneLite it will just light up. In this case it didn't because I only need to do 1 on each side. Now for this puzzle, you can actually flip ones that are unlit if you want to, which will make it easier to do. But if you don't want to flip it because you do take 20 damage every time you do, then you want to click the unlit ones in clockwise order. It's kind of tricky, so that's why I just use RuneLite. For this puzzle, you just need to match whatever is on this side with whatever is on the other side. So just overturn all of them and then match them up. As you enter the Dungy boss room, you can BGS spec it twice and start doing damage. Then stand on this same tile because you'll be hit with the dung wall. Move to the left side and now you can stack the dung onto that wall that you just created so that your room doesn't get completely filled up because it will be harder to hit the boss. So you want to hit and then stay near your dung line. After that, it will start healing with these fly swarms. So you can just start hitting the swarms with your blowpipe, or if that isn't available to you, use darts or knives, and they spawn in the same direction as you can see. For me, from left to right, they start spawning. You can completely ignore the ranger, but for points, you can kill it off. Make sure to be praying range at this point. When the eggs spawn, just click on the darker ones because it reduces the number of rangers that hit you and also gives you more points. Now, you want to try getting rid of the major as soon as possible with your DDS. and also the melee hits hard and also heals the boss. So you want to get rid of it as soon as possible. Then get to the swarms. For now, I'm just ignoring the melee to get rid of the swarms because it is healing the boss and that's damage it'll have to do anyway. Now you're going to notice that before the dung wall attack happens, you'll notice little flies around your character. So that's your signal for when you move towards your own dung wall and get into position where it can stack on the same line. I didn't notice the flies at that point, so that's why we kind of moved away, but we still have tons of room, so it's not a big deal. Make sure to use your super combat potion in this room. As you can see, our supplies have arrived, and you can choose 3 different options for supplies: life, chaos, or power. If you have a lot of supplies left over, as I do, you just choose power because it gives you 2 salts and 2 adrenaline. The salts are like overloads, and adrenaline just helps you regain your spec power quickly. If you have some supplies, not as much, and you want some extra salt, go for chaos. If you have no supplies left, then just pick life, because at the end of the day, you want to complete the raid. The yellow potions are brews, pink ones are restores, salts are overloads, so they boost all your stats to 125, and they last longer, 8 minutes. There are also health packs that help boost your health over time, and ambrosias, which are super healers. So 1 dose of this basically boosts your health up to 125. You want to keep that for Warden final fight in case your health drops. Now it's time for Swordy. This room is quite easy. Remember, you have your pickaxe. You can deposit the pickaxe with the statues, and basically all you need to do is get the light from one statue to the other statue, and there are some fixed puzzles that you'll be able to remember with practice. The key here is to work backwards, so look at the second statue, place a mirror near it, and then just connect it with the other statue. You want to make sure that you get in position to hit the statue and not waste any ticks. So place your final mirror and then run towards the statue so that you can get it in 1 down. It might take you 2 or 3 at first until you get the hang of it, but you want to work towards just 1 puzzle. Deposit your pickaxe with the statue and then switch into your mage gear. So for this boss, he has fixed attacks that he does, which you have to respond with a certain type of attack. So whenever he's close to you and attacking with melee, you have to mage him. If he attacks you with range, then you have to melee him. And if he attacks you with mage, then you have to range him. Once the minions spawn, get rid of the minion and pay attention to the patterns that are on the ground. Also avoid stepping on the orbs, the black or the white orbs. A good tip with remembering the order of the lights is that they're always either on the right or the left side. The light can't be on the opposite side. It might be faster or slower depending on the invocations that you have on. When he disappears, get ready for the ground pattern. And whenever he hits his sword on the ground, that's the indication that he's going to change his attack style. After killing the minion, make sure you stay on the same quarter and attack the boss. If you go on to a different one and the boss is a white color, that means that you can't attack it. Once the minions spawn again, just kill the minions. You can also blowpipe the minions. They start taking poison damage while you're focusing on one. Stay out of melee range when possible, because we have an invocation on, allows him to do melee damage even when he's using a different attack style. When the white orbs appear, of course you want to avoid them or you'll take damage, and DDS spec the boss as he can only be attacked with melee, and Swordy down. Okay, the last room before the boss fight is the monkey room. If you don't have any space in your inventory, go into the room and drop some brews, pick up a hammer and some poison. And when you see a red skull on the pillars, you just click it to fix the pillar damage. If you see a red skull on the vent, stand on the vent and click the potion. Note that the vent spot is a safe spot, so if the poison monkey is close to you, you can just stand on it and avoid taking damage from it. Now, for the monkeys, you attack the red ones with mage, the green ones with melee, and the blue ones with range. You can attack the poison monkeys with range or mage, preferably mage because you can attack from distance. And for volatile monkeys, just pass near them so that they explode, but make sure to get out of the way. Also, get rid of the shamans as fast as possible because they spawn other monkeys. You can also choose to freeze the poison monkeys, but I prefer to just kill them as fast as possible. If you're not soloing, you might find one of your teammates turning red. You just have to DD to avoid damage. You do not need to change into different armor each time. You can simply change your weapon. Okay, boom, done. Drop your hammer. Make sure to pick up your bruise. And time for the boss. Start off with 2 BGS specs, and you want to stay on the sides if you have Mind the Gap Invo on. Unlike Osrs, you can't red X. If you see shadows, get out of there as soon as possible. And if he stands on his hind legs like that, you need to stand near one of the big boulders or you'll take a lot of damage. Now in the boulders phase, you can boulder skip, as you can see I just did. Hit the boss and start doing damage. When the little monkeys spawn, you could either kill them or just ignore them, but they are a bit annoying. Sometimes it's a bit tricky with the boulders. As you can see, I wasn't able to boulder skip, but it's all good. Just make sure that you don't get trapped here. Boulders will spawn at around 35% and 65%. Using a DDS or claws here helps with damage. Okay, time for the Warden. First, make sure to pick up your supplies. I'm going for life, so the meta is go for power first, then life. And make sure to organize your inventory. When attacking the obelisk, your best in slot is Tunic and Shadow, then the Fang, then a blowpipe. Try to destroy it as fast as possible because the obelisk will use its special attack, which is a big red ball, which does damage that cannot be avoided. You just have to tank it. You could either choose to block the right side or the left side. If you choose to block the right side, it will spawn the left side boss, which is safe spottable, as you'll see, and it makes it a lot easier in the final phase, because in the final phase, the boss just does 3 range attacks and then 3 mage attacks. It's always in that order, and you'll see the boss hit the ground, and that's when you know to change prayers, and there's no guesswork involved. But if you choose to block the left side, then the right side boss will spawn, which means Crocky will be in the final phase. And yes, the right side boss does not chase you, but you also can't safe spot it. And that would mean that Crocky spawns in the final phase and his attacks are random. So if you have Insanity on, it's going to be a lot trickier. If you do not block any side, the special attacks will happen both at the same time and you will take a lot of damage. Stand on the same tile that I'm standing on to attack the obelisk and then move towards the center. If the left side boss spawns first, then you'll attack with range first. If the right side spawns, then you'll attack with mage first, and then it alternates between mage and range. As you can see, I'm staying a few tiles away from the boss, so the boss isn't even attacking me. When the ground attacks happen, just make sure you get off it when it turns bright. So when it's light colored, you can stand on it. When it turns bright, you'll take damage. As you can see, I'm just attacking and moving, and it's unable to attack me. Now you quickly switch to your melee gear and spec it and do as much damage as you can. I forgot to salt here, which made my damage lower, so make sure that you have your salt activated. You want to stay out of melee range at all times, or it can hit you 40s to 50s. If the skulls get thrown towards you on the ground, just try to stay as far away as possible. Now I got close to show you the attacks that it can do against you. If it's a red attack, pray mage. If it's a brown attack, pray range. If you find that your prayer turns off, it will do a special attack against you. The blue ball is mage, so pray mage. The white arrow is range, and the red sword is melee. Now, if you're going after points, you want to complete it in 3 downs. So the boss goes down 3 times for the most points. You will not get any more points if you do more than that. Certain invos will mean that his attacks will hit you regardless. That's also the reason I recommend blocking off the right side so that you don't use any of your supplies in this phase. Okay, time for the final phase, final boss. As you can see, I have these tiles marked. It's always the same order: right, left, center. Once you see the ground pattern, just move to the next spot. You'll also see the indication of where the ground pattern is with the direction his hand is pointing. This helps a lot if you have higher invocations on, like Insanity. It goes really quickly, so it will help you avoid the ground patterns. If you have Insanity on, it starts off where it last stopped. So if its last attack was on the left, then you have to stand on the center tile. You can avoid this by simply standing in the middle because there's a delay, and then look at where he's pointing and go stand on that tile. Now the skulls spawn at 20, 40, 60, and 80%. You want to hit the skulls with your melee weapon as fast as possible. You can also BGS spec the Warden, which will lower its defense. Its defense is also capped. The second boss has spawned. Dungy has spawned to the right, and we have Swordy on the left. So Swordy is attacking us with his range or mage attacks, and when Swordy hits the ground, you know that he's going to change his attack style. With Dungy, you want to make sure to stay away from the fireball. You'll see its shadow and just stay out of its range. With practice, you'll get used to attacking the skulls as fast as possible. In terms of skull skipping, you can skull skip, but I haven't had consistent results with it. If you miss a skull, you take 70 damage. Missing 2 skulls means you're dead. So just make sure that you have full HP. And this is where you want to keep your ambrosias and your brews from the raid because they heal you a lot faster. Now we're at the final stage and you want to do as much damage as you can to the boss. Avoid the shadows. Be careful of your prayer. And there you go. All done. Raid complete. Good luck. Do the weeb wiggle at the end and let's see if we're lucky today. Nope. White chest. We'll get him next time, boys. And congrats, you finished your first solo TOA run. Hope you enjoyed this guide and found it useful. I'd really appreciate a like and a comment and a sub. And until next time, happy raiding, have a wonderful day, and I love you all.